Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters kickoff day for the Americas region. It's Season 2, and we are currently in the winners portion of the Group A bracket. Coming up next, Team Liquid's Fr0zen goes up against Team Radiant's Muzzy. And we're going to have the Rogue band away from Muzzy, an unusual band. We'll talk about that in a sec. The Warrior band away from Fr0zen. Priest left up on both sides. Mage left up on both sides. And then a Rogue Druid split here. Any thoughts, TJ, when you look at this really quick?
Honestly, it's too early in the expansion cycle for me to tell what bands are going to be reasonable or not. I think that Highlander Priest has been performing worse than the Galacron Priest, so normally I'd say just ban Priest and you're good to go. You can call it a day. But Highlander Priest, I feel like, is more reasonable to leave up because the consistency of those power swings that they do have just aren't there. And so Fr0zen is going to be able to get to play that this series. But I am curious to see how the differences in their... Oh, wow, he left up Galacron Priest too. Oh, yeah, he did in the first series as well. Well against Galacron Priest, so... I am curious about the difference between the Temple Mages, whereas Fr0zen is playing the kind of throwback to the Cyclone Mage with a bunch of Giants and Conjurers calling, whereas Muzzy is playing the, I don't know, more quote-unquote standard, as standard as you can be at this point in the expansion cycle, a week after, less than a week when these players submitted their lineups, with the Worm Reaver, with the additional 1-mana spells, with Mana Giants. At that top end. So that's kind of the matchup that I want to see the most. Whether or not Fr0zen's Temple Mage is just the nuts.
Yeah, that's it's very powerful when it starts getting rolling. That's for certain. And I am kind of curious because we have seen some. We haven't really seen enough of a sample size for the players to really draw very decisive conclusions. But in an environment like this, I personally believe you're almost as good as your most recent result, right? So if people are saying, oh, like X class is not good, like for example, I think Paladin's coming under fire recently. But for Firebat, he was kind of talking about he wasn't sure about Paladin on Twitter, and then he was still able to, make it to top 8. Don't worry too much about it. Your lineups are set and locked in. Just follow that strategy. And if you do notice some trends, maybe change your bans a little bit. And I think that's kind of the same way here. I like having a dynamic ban as well. It looks like Fr0zen is banning differently from each series. And I think that's going to be interesting going into our first game, which looks like to be the Mage Mirror, as we're getting ready to see if Fr0zen can continue that momentum from that very long series, which he said in his own words, the longest Hearthstone series he's ever played in.
Well, honestly... this one could be a little faster, but it also could be just the same speed because Temple Mage Mirrors can go long. We saw a Temple Mage Mirror go long in the last series. And especially with, two differing styles, you're not going up against the same resources. The Temple Mage decks in their current iteration, well, in most of their iterations in the past, have a lot of variables that you just can't account for when you get into the mulligan phase. A lot of randomly generated stuff that can just make every single game feel completely different. There's not a super linear win condition for the deck outside of play all those randomly generated spells and then Mana Giant and hit him for 8. Like that's Fr0zen maybe has a slightly more linear one because he does have 4 Giants with Sea Giant, Mana Giant, Khadgar, and Double Conjures calling in the list. But still, there's, like I said, so many different things that you can't account for when you get into the game, and it's just about which list can find those wins more consistently, and that's why I when I saw both these lineups side by side, this was the matchup in particular that I wanted to see the most, because I still the jury's out on whether or not Fr0zen's Giants Mage list is actually the better one.
Yeah, I think the Giants list Mage is pretty interesting because I feel like with the dynamic of people building up very heavy boards, right? Like especially Fr0zen leaving up classes like Druid, he's really anticipating the opportunity to climb onto the board super fast and then punish decks that take a little bit of a long time to get set up. Versus the more aggressive Tempo Mage just tries to combo a lot of their big spells together, and it does feel like a little bit more like it just feels a little bit more like a combo deck to me, where you draw certain parts of the deck and you're really trying to piece things together. So I am curious to see which version of this deck ends up taking shape, because there are sides of the deck that feels like they're much more conditional than just kind of playing good cards. If you kind of contrast this with like Highlander Mage, for example, as Fr0zen has a pretty interesting turn 2 here with opportunity to just draw a card or just kind of pass. Highlander Mage is like a much more consistent deck statistically, but in tournaments, it does feel like people are preferring this Tempo Mage style, which is pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the Tempo Mage has a much higher skill ceiling than Highlander Mage. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why these players are bringing it, is because they feel like they can always improve at the deck, and they feel like they can always find those little edges, where in Highlander Mage, because there are some key decisions, a lot of times your plays are dictated by, your expensive cards that you're playing, and it's a decision between, hey, which of these 3 expensive cards do I play on this turn, rather than, oh my gosh, I have a million 1-mana spells in my hand, and a Sorcerer's Apprentice. Is now the time to go off? When is the time to go off? How far do I go? And that can sometimes be difficult. But I mean, none of these plays so far have really been super impactful decisions. Fr0zen last turn, it was just a ping or a cram session, and cram session draw 1 card. Yes, his hand is poor, but I feel like he needs to try and rely on Sorcerer's Apprentice plus Mana Cycle to maybe bail him out. Might have to dump this evocation earlier than he'd like to, just to try and get some spells that can help him fight for the board, and maybe get that Mana Giant cheaper, because Khadgar and Conjurer's Calling are in the hand, so he's got the gas to follow up. It's just about, how do I get there? And Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think, is the best draw on the deck. It's just a matter of, is this the turn to go for it? And
sure.
What to do?
Yeah, there's
still just
definitely
doesn't seem
some
super high value.
questions. It's the more I think about it, the more I just kind of realize both are combo decks, but just in different variations. And it's kind of like what you were saying here. Fr0zen has a little bit of an awkward turn.
Yeah,
we'll see how this evocation does. And remember, he's really trying hard to get this Mana Giant and Conjurer's Calling up. A lot of cheap cards.
But nothing. Oh, yep, he did find the
icicle
tucked away in there, but he needs to nail it with the arcane missiles.
He's got this.
He's got it. He's got it. Yep, first try. Hit all 3 minions.
Nice and clean.
Yeah, so that was what he needed. Now Fr0zen, Mana Giant is down to 4 mana. He's got 2 more cards that did not start. Oh no, only 1 more card that didn't start in this deck. Right? Was that Frost Ember randomly generated from something?
No, that was picked up, I believe, from Icicle.
Yeah, because it was Fr0zen. Okay, yeah, he does play the 1 Frost on his deck. He does have the Dalaran Mage, though. That's a card that didn't start in his deck. So that can be combined with Cram Session next turn. And he's getting close to Mana Giant, Khadgar, Conjurer's Calling. And that's, that's the win condition. And now Muzzy's kind of back to square one. Doesn't want to leave the Sorcerer's Apprentice up, but what's the best way to deal with it?
Arcane Missiles.
Yeah. It will be 5 missiles, so very likely.
Yeah, that's a very high chance of killing it. Oh!
Because I'm pretty sure Muzzy ended turn before he saw the outcome from the arcane missiles, so he's like, yeah, this kills it every time.
I know, but at that point, there's not really much you can do about it, right? Like, coin into one of these 1 mana plays wasn't really going to redeem him, so...
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
A little bit of a sweat moment, but yeah, looks like that Sorcerer's Apprentice going down, which keeps this game relatively competitive. If that Sorcerer's Apprentice stayed up, I think that would have been really bad here.
Well, I mean, honestly, Fr0zen didn't have many ways to follow up on it. He drew a Ray of Frost from the Cram Session, so he could have killed the Azure Explorer, but that's it. So,
well, the Mana Giant gets cheaper. I guess he doesn't. Yeah, he would have had Conjurer's Calling and a 2 Mana Giant.
No, because he would have had to play the Cram Session for 1 mana. Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe you're right. Because he could have played both Ray of Frost, which would have reduced it.
Yeah.
He was on 5
Either
mana.
way, Fr0zen has.
Oh no, you're right. You're absolutely
another
right.
evocation.
That would have been really bad if that Sorcerer's Apprentice was left up. You're absolutely
Yes. I think it would have been catastrophic, but either way, this is still not a good spot for Muzzy when he sees the Giants potentially coming down here.
He could play both.
He could play both Giants. I think he wants to save one, right, for the big turn.
Yeah, next turn. He may even. Does he want to save both? I don't think he want to save both. I don't know. That's actually tough.
No, I think you can go ahead and play this man Giant. I even think I would want to kill off the.
All right, he's playing both.
Wow. Yeah, I would kill off the Azure Explorer. This is pretty interesting. I guess it's because you know that Muzzy's deck doesn't run a lot of hard removal. Yeah, no, this is totally this is totally okay because Muzzy's deck doesn't have anything like that. He doesn't have a single card that says destroy a minion. But he does have devolving missiles.
Yeah. Which not too bad for Fr0zen because even if a couple of them hit Mana Giants, even Conjurer's Calling with Khadgar on 6-drops is still good. Deep Freeze can buy him time. Font Power can get him an extra spell from Mana Cycle in this turn if you were to want it.
Yeah, which I guess it depends on how his devolving missiles go. He also could go for the Mana Cyclone right now and then try to see what spells he can combo. Like Frost Nova is still on the table. Ray of Frost can also be really useful.
Yeah. He's got to hurry.
No, Desert Obelisk.
The Obelisk.
Okay, TJ, I had a game today where I got something like that. It devolved, or yeah, something like that. And then I had a Potion of Illusion, so I got another Desert Obelisk, and then I got another Potion of Illusion, but I didn't have enough mana and time to play the third Desert Obelisk. And so I already had won the game by then, but I was like, but I needed to not play the third Obelisk to win. Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh wait!
Oh yes!
Okay, that was great. Oh yes! What a roller coaster!
I mean, the Arcane Explosion clears up a lot of this, especially with the Astromancer. That'll clear up a lot, and then he can Ray of Frost.
I mean, yeah, the Ray of Frost is huge actually against the Deathwing.
Yeah,
and then he could push for lethal.
Wait, okay. So Fireball plus Astromancer at 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15 damage. But he doesn't have another burn spell.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you Astromancer, you do all the other stuff, you Ray of Frost, and then I think you want to Fireball on the following turn. Arcane Explosion costs 2. Ray of Frost will cost 2. That only leaves you time to do Cram Session or Hero Power. I guess you could Tome of Intellect as well and get a random Mage spell, but that doesn't seem reliable.
If he Hero Powers and double trades into the Sea Giant, you can actually clear off the Sea Giant as well.
Vape instead. Oh, Ray of Frost was only 1. That's right, because it wasn't the Twin Spell version of it.
Yeah. All right, I like this.
I do like this. But I mean, Fr0zen. What's stopping Fr0zen from doing it right back?
True.
So you can trade the Sea Giant, and do you want to trade into Raz or not? That's actually the question.
Probably.
I wonder.
I mean, I feel like that's the only way you lose. If you're freezing the board. He also doesn't know the secret.
Oh my god. He's about to get vaporized again, TJ. Remember what happened last time he got vaporized? Yep. He lost. Okay, so he sees no counter spell.
Oh, Vape Nash.
again. How does this keep happening?
I mean, he still gets two 10 drops.
These are huge minions.
Oh, man.
Yeah, 10 drops are just really big.
Yeah.
Gosh, now if he deep freezes, he's still in quite the pickle.
Well, deep freeze does have the added benefit he can freeze 2 minions next turn. Yeah, he's going to take 20. But it's kind of a way to like have delayed freeze. Still some freeze in his deck,
Muzzy,
too.
I probably would take the most optimistic line, which is deep freeze and hope they don't have damage here. That makes the most sense to me. Given that you're still safe. You're at 20, or you're at 30 health, and your opponent can only deal 20. And your opponent's committed a ton of resources. No Conjurers calling left.
Let's make something real.
Jandis. Whoa! These are great 5-drops.
What?
Mozaki is like the less important one though, because you have no spells.
He can pick up some, like Arcane
Counter
Intellect.
spell.
I guess counter
I'm loving this
probably
counter
better.
spell right here.
Yeah.
Just disrupt Muzzy even more. Muzzy has a 1-mana spell to proc it with the Tome of Intellect, but definitely a nuisance. Oh my, trade with the Colossus of the Moon. I guess that makes sense. If you're just protecting this board state, the moment your minions are given the green light, you will kill your opponent anyways.
Time runs out on me.
I'm like this Living Monument to go face, but that's just because I hate missing damage
Yeah.
like this.
I wonder.
And I don't think
Yeah,
there's any minions that you want to trade into, because Muzzy's gonna do the trading for you.
Right,
The
especially
cost
with
of the moon
taunt.
makes sense.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be just like you.
Okay. Tome of Intellect, cost him nothing.
Still
Oh,
has a
not
spell
nothing.
damage
It gets
minion.
a random card. Wand
Oh.
Thief.
Okay.
Another cram session.
Frost Nova?
Another cram session? We don't need that, right?
No.
Do we need that?
Well, no, because you only have one to be able to pick up like Mana Cyclone into Frost Nova. You can only play one in order to do that. So it's Frostbolt for the freeze, because that could help him survive. Or help him kill his opponent. Frostbolt Fireball's 11. Well, he's 1 mana off lethal.
Oh, wait.
Double Ray
That's
Frost.
me enough. Wait, yeah, if he raises Frost past the taunts, 3, 6, 9. Yeah,
Yeah, that was lethal.
that's super lethal.
Yeah, because he could Frostbolt and
Oh,
Ray of
no,
Frost, Ray of
he-
Frost for 10, and then
Yeah,
Fireball.
yeah.
Did he find it?
He also could have just pinged as well. There's a lot of things he could have done about this. Oh
Yeah.
no! Yeah, I think you realized.
Yeah.
Oh
It was-
jeez.
It was lethal though.
Yeah, there was several ways to lethal actually with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters, but
Yeah, it doesn't
it
matter.
does. It does. I mean, it matters in the sense that everyone who saw that can't unsee it.
Yeah. Muzzy seems to be a little off his game today. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of like just kind of like question mark turns.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, if you look across the board here, there just has been a little bit more sloppiness, and that's expected to happen, TJ, because it's the beginning of the expansion. They time Grandmasters to be the week, like not even a week into the expansion, you have to submit your deck list, and then you have to practice it, and it's very difficult to be fully on top of everything across all the opponents that you could play, because you have to play against all the matchups of your opponent, and then all your small nuances, right? Like Fr0zen's not playing the normal amount of tempo mage that you expect, so it can be tricky, and because he's thinking so hard about the board state, he's not thinking about does he have lethal. But looks like unless Fr0zen's able to
Water
find
Bear.
a way, yeah, unless he's find a way to heal,
Nope.
he's dead. finds Twilight Runner. Sick card,
Yeah.
but
You win.
not going to be enough. And Muzzy's up 1-0.
Yeah, good on Fr0zen to spot the only out that he had, which was the Sandhope Water Bear at the 5-drop. He did have a couple damage minions on board, so he would need to get fortunate in a couple ways to get Sandhope Water Bear, and then for it to hit the 1 and 3 to get hit his face. But did give himself in out there with Conjurer's Calling, and that's why he played out that turn instead of just conceding to the 1 damage ping from his opponent. But a little sloppy, but overall Muzzy got there, and what a crazy set of turns, right? Just kind of the nuts.
Yep. I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of Mage from the current meta right now, which is just like showing you that it's never truly out. It sometimes just stumbles into wins, even if that's not what you're looking for. And
Yeah.
It has kind of a little bit of everything. It's got a lot of tempo and pressure. It's got great combos. It's got ways to generate win conditions when you start running out of stuff. And it's also really fun. Like, honestly speaking, it's a really fun deck to play because you get so many different kinds of scenarios game to game that are really unique, and you have to constantly be improvising as you go along. So, overall, I would say that it's a really great deck, and I expect to see a lot more Mage to come. Even as recently as this series, right? Because Fr0zen still has his Mage up. In the meantime, we're going to go to Muzzy's Survival Druid, featuring the big ramp package and free discounts from Kael'thas. And Fr0zen's going to stay on his Mage.
Yep. He wants to get those Giants online early because they will quickly get outclassed by some survival of the fittest beasts from his opponent's side, but he should have time to do that. Muzzy just looking for ramp. Straight up ramp or nature studies into ramp. Just wants to accelerate his game plan. Fr0zen, I think Shinvala is the only keep.
Yeah, Chinvala seems to be an early game card that you really want to invest a ton into and try to even high roll it early, like get Chinvala and a bunch of cheap spells with Sorcerer's Apprentice, like we've seen a couple of times. Or it seems like a late game, last minute effort to build the board after all your other threats have been dealt with, and then you extend Chinvala onto the board and then it sticks.
Yeah.
But that's a lot weaker than the other scenario that I've described. So it does feel like Chinvala is in that territory of always keep.
Yeah.
Or an early keep at best.
Holy moly, Dan.
That's a lot of ramp.
That is a lot of ramp.
Oh my gosh. And if he finds another cheap spell to play, he could Kael'thas and then Guardian Animals.
All right. Oh, okay. So you can Khadgar, Sorcerer's Apprentice, double Ray of Frost something, coin, and you get 2 5/5s.
I like it.
No, you
It's a
don't.
lot.
I don't think you
Ton of
Khad.
pressure.
Yeah, I don't know if you Khadgar though, because you have 2 Conjurer's Callings in your decks, and
Yeah, that's true.
I think you just take
You're
the 1
kind of
5/5 call today.
anticipating. You're anticipating a giant turn, right? Coming out of Druid next turn.
Yeah, yeah. You're hoping there's not a giant turn, but you are anticipating one. I feel like that's the relationship that most players have with Druid. You hope, you hope, you hope, and you never get what you wish for.
Yeah. Oh wow, Devolving Missiles in a deck
Uh,
that doesn't run any. That's so big. Devolving Missiles
Yeah.
is unbelievably important against Druid.
Yep, that can help you get some of the survival of the fittest minions later on. Help get rid of that buff.
Ah, I like this. Ray of Frost on the Chinvala because he's anticipating it to get rushed into and die.
Yeah.
So it's the least impactful one. If he freezes a minion that can attack next turn.
It's a little too cute though, right? Like, if he plays Guardian Animals, sure, right? But if he doesn't and you just froze more damage, you kind of look silly.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh's right.
Yeah, good positioning too, by the way, from Fr0zen to keep things separated for the late Threshodon. Make it awkward so he can't get optimal trades.
Yeah.
And now, the devolving missiles. And then we'll react off of that and see what happens.
Alright.
Alright.
Oh, Incanter's Flow.
I like Incanter's Flow a lot in this deck. Almost to the point where this kind well, not necessarily Fr0zen's deck nearly as much as like Muzzy's deck. Since discounting 1 mana to 0 is a really big deal versus discounting like the first half of Conjurer's Calling from 4 to 3 is not as big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I still like it. He ends up going instead with that cram session just to get more card draw going, which I can't really blame him for. Card draw does seem to be a really big limiting factor in a lot of these Mage decks.
He's going to be able to play both Mana Giants next turn. Which seems to be right on time. And Muzzy's in a tough spot here because even if he goes for like Speaker Gauge or Overgrowth, then he's only taking off mirror images, so that's not a good plan. This looks like it might just be a Twilight Runner.
Curious.
And that would mean he would only hero power because I don't think you want to use the Overgrowth just to get through. I mean, I guess Speaker Gauge or Overgrowth does allow you to hero power down the 5/1. Yeah, on second thought, that's not too bad. And that 5/8 Wind Fury minion is still sticking around.
Yeah, that my thoughts exactly. It's like the Gildra just represents a ton of pressure onto Fr0zen, and he will have to respond to it in some way.
Oh, another
and
mirror
Fr0zen has
image.
no ability to respond to it right now. Not reliably, at least.
There was a moment where I was thinking maybe Fr0zen doesn't want to play both Mana Giants because if he does, then and Muzzy has a Survival of the Fittest, he would Survival of the Fittest and be able to clear out both Mana Giants. But Mirror Image now will protect him from that, and that's why he played the Khadgar alongside it, because otherwise Muzzy would be able to trade over one of the Mirror Images with the 2/2.
Okay.
But he just plays 1 Mana Giant, so. Guardian Animals now, Muzzy has
Twilight Runner, I think.
Twilight Runner and the Lake Thresher left in his deck. And I believe those are the last two.
He
pieces.
pulled the Lake Thresher.
I thought he
and
played 2.
attacked. No, he pulled Teacher's Pet and Lake Thresher, and then I think he drew Twilight Runner. So this will draw 1 card.
Oh yeah, for some reason I thought he played 2, but it's actually Eddie that plays 2 Lake Threshers. My bad. I mean, it's still worth using because you want to get that spell out of your hand before it loses its value. So,
right.
And you get the.
Oh, is Muzzy not going to attack with the Twilight Runner? That would be kind of bold, wouldn't it? He's already kind of implied that he wouldn't attack with it because he hero powered before he drew his cards. So if he changes his mind, he should have attacked first with the Twilight Runner to see if he had any cards that would change his play, like a Wild Growth.
Oh.
No attacks.
Yeah.
Even more interesting, TJ. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because Fr0zen would have to trade in his Khadgar in order to make board space. And his Wand Thief. Huh. But now Fr0zen gets to Mana Giant. Oh no, he can't Mana Giant Frost Nova because he doesn't have the mana for it because the Frost Nova's natural from his deck. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where Muzzy wants to stop the Khadgar from summoning even more giants onto the board. And so he's letting the mirror images take up too much space. and it's not a resource we often think about too much. But when they are relevant, it becomes a really big deal, especially in Mage matchups. And it's funny because usually it's Mage that's keeping the opponent's board full, but in this case, it's now the Druid keeping the Mage's board full.
And he knows that he wasn't even at risk of taking damage because the Mana Giant had to trade over the Anubisat Defender. And that's a very crucial tool from Fr0zen is the Frost Nova, since he doesn't have Devolving Missiles. Pretty much everything that Muzzy's going to play is going to stick, and because he'll be able to draw 4 cards next turn with the attacks.
Interesting. I mean, as far as he knows, there's possible spell generation to stop him from attacking next turn, which would be a disaster, but it's unlikely. He's playing his odds.
Yeah.
What to do? What to do?
Icicle his own minion just to free up space?
Yeah. So it's crazy because I liked Fr0zen's play to play around Survival of the Fittest, clearing off his Mana Giant, because he needed to protect his Mana Giant, and the Survival of the Fittest would have buffed up the Gidra enough, so he needed the 4 taunts to protect his Mana Giant. But Muzzy's using these mirror images against him, which is incredible. So cool.
Time runs out on me.
Now, Muzzy still has a problem on his hands, and that's that there's unanswered Mountain Giants on the board, or Mounted Mana Giants on the board. But with how many card draws he has left in his deck, or left on the board, he's still good. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! That's actually terrible.
They can't attack heroes. So Muzzy will only take 3 damage a turn.
So you just survive with the fittest this turn.
And pass,
that's it, and you
right?
pass. Yeah. You survive with the fittest and you pass.
I mean, we know Fr0zen has ways to go around it. He could totally just icicle his own board and whatnot.
But he's not taking damage, and that's the big thing. So Muzzy just gets a free turn where he can play a 10 mana spell for free.
Right. Well, not for free, for 10 mana, but
for
minimal damage.
Free as far as his health goes.
More Conjurer's Calling. So silly.
What if he gets the same thing?
I would ping my own 0-2s now.
Oh, now he just gets 5/5s.
He weakened his board. He's pinging his own. He's pinging the opponent's face. He's weakening his own board state just so he can start attacking and threatening more. Holy smokes, this is a lot of cards coming in right now. So Nature's Calling. To find an expensive card. Germination.
Do you Ysera Germination?
I think you're worried about dying, right? Your opponent's has 12 showing, 13 showing.
How curious.
So maybe... Actually, it's definitely not Forest Aid, right? We can at least eliminate that process. I think it has to be Termination. I was thinking Swipe, because Swipe plus the Bog Beam would clean up at least some of the board pressure.
Time run low.
Yeah.
My dream is your
Yeah. Ysera Germination.
I like it. Germinating all the dragons.
Now Fr0zen's got a lot of problems.
This is a huge board. Are you kidding me?
If this 12/12 could attack face, he could Conjurer's Calling the taunted Ysera and maybe remove taunts, but it can't attack face.
I mean, Malagos is playable.
Yes. Let's see. There's 26 damage showing on board if he clears off this Ysera. 27
in a
with
weird
the hero
way,
power.
I think he wished he kept his Abyssal. Oh! I mean, these are okay minions. None of them are Tyrion, though. Oh no! It's so bad.
Alright, so Muzzy has less mana to work with. He's got a ton of portals in his deck. Oh, Iron Bar. That's the stuff right there.
You've got me fired up.
Finds more taunts.
This timeline amuses me.
Oh no, Breaker. Yeah, this looks like it's just out of reach here for Fr0zen.
Yeah.
Just not fast enough to pressure the Druid. And you can
wonder
see
why
why. Oh, wow. He has Kael'thas. He could play all of that.
Yeah, I wonder why he wouldn't attack just the biggest thing to kill off his Twilight Runner with portals in his deck.
I think the value of holding on to those Twilight Runners is higher.
I mean,
Well, I don't know.
he's got a fatigue. He's got.
I don't think he's
portals
going to
up
have
his
a
deck.
problem at all, TJ, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We're starting to enter the territory where these are battleground-sized minions. It's like, this is a war band. This ain't a board.
Okay, he kept it alive because he wasn't going to overflow. At first, I thought he was going to overflow because he played the Kael'thas, but
Yeah.
he was actually just playing the Kael'thas because it's a 12-15. So I'm fine with that. And needs, yeah, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You win.
Mirror image.
That's going to
cool.
do it. Muzzy up 2-0. 2 back-to-back losses for the Mage. Druid deck really coming through. Muzzy might be our first player through the top 4 at the beginning of the season. He's on match point. And he also hasn't really lost in quite a few games now because he 3-0'd Eddie's Mage.
He's picking up
Or
steam.
maybe Eddie's Mage 3-0'd itself.
I think that's more of it. At least in the first 2 games, it definitely 2-0'd itself. The third game is a little bit arguable, but it was fun. That was a funny series. But now Muzzy only has a priest left, and we didn't get to see him. It was banned in his first series versus Eddie, so we haven't got to see it. But I believe it's card for card the same as what we saw from Saiyan in the first series of the day. Pretty standard, like a Dragon Galakron Priest, single copy of Cobalt Spellkin. I call it Dragon. It doesn't run many dragons. It just runs Favor, Cobalt Spellkin, and Muzzy, but it has the Draconic Studies and the Cleric Scales. So some Dragon synergy going on there. But those cards that are highlighted, those are some of the new key cards. Cabal Acolyte Wave of Apathy combo allows you to steal pretty much any single minion. If your opponent plays a big thing, you just play that for 5 mana, you steal it. Then Mind Render Lucia is the ultimate disruption tool, especially against Tempo Mage. Also Seeker Rogue. I mean, look at how cheap this deck is. Mind Render Lucia can come out many times and be able to dump your opponent's hand, which is neato.
Yeah. Our producer has nominated that previous game, by the way, as a top 5 play nomination, which in hindsight, that Muzzy mirror image stuff was super powerful. And I mean, I totally don't blame Fr0zen for switching off his Mage and going to his Rogue, because it looks like things aren't working out so far, and we're just going to go to Rogue versus Priest. And this is a matchup that's still, I think, pretty solid for Rogue on paper, right?
Ooh. It's hard to tell. There's not too much data because this Rogue deck is, it differs so much across different lists. So like Fr0zen plays Jandice Brav and Flick Sky Shiv, and also like the Secret package differs. But Galakron Priest, I feel like, is favored against everything. I don't think there's too many bad matchup for the deck.
Interesting. It's interesting because the small sample size of data that we have kind of shows that Rogue is pretty strong against Galakron Priest in particular right now. I think it's because Rogue is really good at threatening at all points of the game, especially when you're playing a questing adventurer list. And the Priest does need some uptime, and like things like Blackjack Center are still really powerful tools to deal with anything that that Priest is able to do. So I guess my experience has kind of lined up to it. Anytime I've played Galakon Priest, there's two decks that I fear, or two classes that I fear. One of them is Rogue, and the other one is Hunter. So I think that's a little bit more consistent with my experience as well. Either way, heading into turn 3 here from Muzzy, goes ahead and digs into his deck with his Cleric and looks at opportunities to pick up removal tools or tempo tools. Chooses the removal tools. I do like that in case he finds an early questing adventure or Edwin Van Cleef that he can't answer. So sometimes in decisions like, yeah, the Wand Thief, too many combo cards, right?
Yeah.
Not enough entry fraggers and people who just like really want to stay back and bait their teammates.
Could have really used a backstab there. Kind of an awkward hand though. Incanter's Flow is interesting because his deck is, I mean, he just picked that because it's cheap. He could use it to combo Evil Miscreant next turn. But the actual value of Incanter's Flow for this rogue deck is pretty poor.
It doesn't actually do anything.
Because he's got like 3 0-cost spells. Like Vendetta, you're not going to cast for 3 most of the time.
Yeah. And
then secrets that are already 2, so reducing them to 1. I mean, cool. Maybe you get better value out of Shadow Jeweler Hamar.
Semi-relevant for secrets. There's 1 Dragon Horde, but yeah, Shadow Step, Prep, Backstab. They don't go negative.
Yeah.
Vendetta is 0, so. This looks like an opportunity to play Edwin Van Cleef on paper as well, because you do end up playing 2 cards before you get to the Edwin. But Evil Miscreant just does well. Don't you want to kill? Wait, no, you don't. You lose the.
Yep.
Oh no.
That's a big yup.
Oh no.
And now, if Muzzy really wants to, he can coin Mindbender, Lackey plus Edwin.
Yeah, so the Mindrender Lucia, their timing is everything with this card. And one thing to note is that timing of it right now is a little bit awkward. I guess if he switches hands, Fr0zen would be able to coin into like Galakron. I think that might be disastrous. So if he coins,
no, because he's going to use the coin.
Yeah, exactly. If you play that and then you play the Lucia, then you disrupt it.
And he drew Prep and Shadow Step. That's literally perfect.
He could Shadow
Step the perfect Mindrender hand. He could do everything. Except he can leave him with a Draconic Lackey.
Yeah, I don't think you want to Lucia again, right? Because then it swaps back twice. And then you basically lose your deck at that point.
Yeah. And I don't even know if you...
Oh, this is great.
See ya.
I feel bad for Fr0zen, but this is also pretty epic. How could you not love it for people who want to see Edwin Van Cleef hit the board like this?
Yeah, and he dumps the secret passage just so... Oh my gosh, this is brutal. Look at Muzzy. He's just...
A legendary punish.
Yep. He's going to leave him with the Draconic Lackey.
A pretty significant misplay, but he's got the Shadow Word Death, right? The idea is he burns it from his hand, so he has no Edwin. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, and you just want to pick him the worst spell. Give him a Pyroblast. I don't know.
Probably not. I think maybe you just combustion.
A combustion, sure.
Yeah, I guess you could play Disciple of Galakron and steal his invocation.
I don't know how... No, because the Galakron's in his hand. You're not stealing anything.
Oh, you're buffing the Galakron?
Because he has his deck too, so it would buff the Galakron.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I'm trying to think creatively here for Fr0zen, but looks like he is in big trub.
Honestly, I probably would have given Pyro Blast just because it would buy you some time to get back into the game.
And
Yeah,
that's
it
going
looks
to
like he
do it.
conceded.
Muzzy 3-0 sweep,
He's
advancing
bumped.
to top 4 on Sunday. Air drumming his way to a top 4 in week number 1 of Grandmasters.
The sickest mind render that I've seen. 2,
That was dope.
the biggest punish to a misplay that we've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah.
Because Fr0zen wanted to play Edwin. It looked like it. All he needed to do was Vendetta, then Incanter's Flow, then Edwin. And then he would have just given Muzzy like an evil miscreant, which I don't even know if at that point he would have drawn prep, so he would have had a way to activate it, but it would just be lackeys. It wouldn't be getting rid of his whole hand and then not having anything. He would have had to deal with the Edwin first. So, a massive Maya render, a massive punish, and that gives Muzzy a 3-0.
All right, well, that brings us to the bottom half of the bracket. Fr0zen will get a little bit of a breather while Saiyan and Eddie will duke it out for a chance to challenge for top 2. Remember that top 4 guarantees you more points, and the points will seed you into Division A and Division B, which many players are pegging as even more important than the round-robin stage itself. Which division you get placed in will massively influence your chances of advancing, and I think we'll see whether or not Saiyan and Eddie can fight for that survival opportunity. In the meantime, though, wow, what a day we've had so far, huh, TJ? That was a pretty fun series, back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it still felt pretty long, but it was a 3-0. But I just feel like all of the decks in the metagame right now have these explosive turns that just make for some very interesting Hearthstone to watch, and maybe some very difficult Hearthstone to cast at times, because there's so many weird things happening, so many interesting interactions happening. But I kind of feel like I'm just along for the ride today, which is, fun. It's a nice birthday present.
It's been real fun, but that leads us to our next intermission. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have more Hearthstone Grandmasters action here, day 1 of Season 2.